Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to do a review of something a little bit different. A lot of you have asked about the fitness tracker that I've worn over the years in my videos, and I'm actually on the third generation of the Xiaomi Mi Band, and this is Mi Band 3. So I started off with the first one that had no screen. It was just a basic tracker. The second generation added a screen and a lot of new functionality. This third generation really ups the ante in what this fitness tracker can do, and it is for this reason I believe that this is the best budget fitness tracker on the market. Let's jump in and let's take a look at the Mi Band 3 today. One of the best ways to illustrate what I'm talking about is this summer, and this was actually before I had the Mi Band 3, I was still using the Mi Band 2. I was going to the beach with one of my children and one of his friends, my wife. And so in the vehicle we had, my wife was wearing an Apple Watch, first generation. The two boys were wearing two different styles of Fitbit. And so we were kind of wondering about going into the water with our fitness trackers. So we began to do the research as we drove and discovered that out of the 4 items in the vehicle, mine of course by far being the least expensive, it was the only one that actually got worn into the water that day because it was actually waterproof. This newest version is actually water rated down to 50 meters of swimming depth, and so incredible amount of weather sealing. And I know this to be true firsthand. It was probably about a year and a half ago, maybe somewhere around April. And so winter had just passed here in Ontario, and I was out on one of my mini treks. And so everything was kind of very moist and cold. And but some greenery was starting to come up. And somewhere inadvertently at the time I had an actual band that was wearing out, and the actual fitness tracker itself, this little egg inside, had actually popped out of my band and it was lost. And so I was frustrated, not because it's expensive. Fortunately, it's not very expensive at all, but because, I don't like losing things. I like taking care of my stuff. And so anyway, I went out, I looked for it in the area I thought it was, and I couldn't find it. And so it was a couple of days later, and I thought, well, I kind of given up on it. And then I remembered that, what it does, when I'm close to it, it will actually show up on the app on my phone. And so I began to get close to it. And sure enough, it was still transmitting signal, even though it had been out. It had rained during that time. It was cold, it was damp, it was down in wet grasses. And yet when I arrived on the spot, sure enough, it picked up the signal, and after some pawing around, I eventually found it, and I used it up until about a month ago when I switched to the Mi Band 3, and it was still working great. And so that kind of spoke to me about how durable these are. In fact, in the generations of these that I've had, I do everything with them. All the fitness activities that I like to do. I like to cycle, run, hike, cross-country ski, you name it. I do tons of stuff. I play softball and basketball, etc., etc. And I have worn it while doing all kinds of construction work, and I finally did start to scratch up the face of my last one, but until the day I took it off my wrist, it was still functioning perfectly. And so these really do a pretty fantastic job. And so let's jump in, let's take a closer look at it itself and the various functionality that's now a part of the Mi Band 3. So let's take a quick look at some of the changes that have been made to the Mi Band 3. And so as we have already seen, the general bezel has grown a little bit in shape. It now has a rounded edge to it, and now the center button is depressed instead of raised. Now, the center button actually in some ways has less functionality than before in that it pretty much did everything, but now what we have is we have a touch-sensitive whole screen that allows us to access different things. The center button really serves two purposes. Number one, you can use it to wake it up. You can also awaken it just by bringing it up to kind of a looking position if you have that enabled. But this is kind of a surefire way of turning it on, checking it. So now you have the ability to move in kind of in a stroking motion in two different directions. And so in this case, you can move up and down for different options there. And then in each one of these, you have the option of scrolling to the side, back and forth. And this button will kind of bring you back one level. And so in this case, for example, you've got steps, you've got distance, you scroll over calories burned, your battery life, And so then if I move back, however, heart rate, and it's got some of these functionality where it's cool, where you actually touch and hold if you want to test, for example, heart rate or some other functionalities like stopwatch. You can enable those to where it's not happening as accidentally as it used to. Now you have to be a little bit more intentional, which I think is an improvement when it comes to that. You also now have the ability to program weather to be put on there. And so in this case, you have a 3-day forecast. And so you can program it either to follow you to some degree, though it's not going to be as precise as, say, your iPhone or, smartphone. But you do have the option or also to program if you're mostly in one different place. You can kind of refine that a little bit more. And so you can have a 3-day forecast. Obviously, you can choose Fahrenheit or Celsius, and you can see a basic forecast there. So a nice additional functionality that's added there. And then moving on past that, you also have under the More screen, there are a few other options shown on that. As previously mentioned, there is a stopwatch functionality that you can now use, which is certainly a handy addition there. You can also find your device, and so whatever you're connected to via Bluetooth, in this case it's my iPhone, I can hold that down and I will send a signal to my iPhone and make it beep. You have some options here to change what is shown on the screen itself, and in the About screen you can check your kind of firmware position and where you're at on that. Now, one other option that you have here that is nice is that you now have the ability to have notifications sent through there. And so either a variety of different things, be it through, a text or Facebook Messenger. And while, it's a fairly small amount of screen real estate, I find that it's enough to get the general impression of someone's message that is sent to me, and then I can quickly see what they've said. Example here, Twitter, someone has followed me, basic things like this, notification showing up, and so it's enough to give you the general impression and at least give you the sense of whether or not you need to look at your actual smartphone for more functionality, or if you want further information or to follow up. Now with the Mi Band 3, you also have more functionality through the basic app. And so, as always, you can take a look at your history. You can take a look at different things like that. But what I really like now is that there's more precision now under the activity screen. And so you have the option, when you're out, even to cycle, which I often use, or running, things like that, which is handy in that it can leverage the GPS signal in your device, and so give you more options on that. I also find that it's quite practical when it comes to sleeping. While it's not perfect when it comes to that, it gives you a fairly decent tracking of your sleep. And by the way, I find that enabling the enhanced sleep mode on the Mi Band itself, it does have an impact on battery, but it's fairly insignificant. However, if you have the full-time monitoring of your heart rate, that will definitely use up the battery life much more quickly. If you don't have that setting on, and you do have the sleep setting on, I find that I can go for about 9 days, 10 days, maybe even up to 12 days before I need to recharge. Now, the Mi Band itself, you do have a lot of different options here when it comes to that, and so I do like the fact that with the various apps, you have the ability to control that and have it to contact you on that. You do have options when it comes to lift, not only when you lift your wrist to look at things, but you can also set almost like a do not disturb mode. And so you can see in my case, I've turned it off overnight, and so it's not coming on during the night. And here, heart rate detection, this is what I mentioned when it comes to, you have some options. Either you can do the automatic heart rate detection, and it's going all the time. The sleep assistant is the mode that I choose. You can also choose to turn that right off if you just want to maximize battery life. And so you've got a lot of different options here, and I find that they have made a lot of progress. I've been using Mi Band since the first generation, and I've seen just a lot of progress that has been made in terms of the app's functionality and how well everything works. And so when it comes to the actual fitness tracking, which is really kind of the main thing that these are about, I find that the Mi Band does a really great job. I use it for a variety of activities, and when you couple it with the GPS of your smartphone, you really get a tremendous amount of accuracy. I do find that it maybe underreports calories, at least compared to other fitness trackers doing exact same activities. Sometimes I've synced up with other people when we're doing the exact same thing, and I'm not working any less hard than them. It does a little more grudging with the calorie burning, but in terms of measuring the actual activity and sleep monitoring, it really does an impressive job. And the thing is that at the end of the day, right now, if you look in the description down below, I have a coupon code there for the company GearBest, which is, you know, kind of a Chinese Amazon kind of type company. But there is a coupon code there, and you can actually order one of these for $26 US, and so for under $30 to get a fitness tracker that does all this does, I think it is a pretty fantastic deal. And so this is why I think for the money, this is the best budget fitness tracker on the market. And so the next time you see me wearing something in one of my videos and you say, what is it? That's it. It's the Xiaomi Mi Band 3. I'm Dustin Abbott. If you look in the description down below, you can find those buying links I mentioned. You can also follow me on social media, become a patron. And if you haven't already, please click subscribe right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.